are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Once again, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here once again on this Friday, February 9th. We have a lot to talk about on today's edition of the GSMC Football Podcast today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. We have made it. We have made it to the final Friday before the Super Bowl. We've made it. This is the last football Friday of the year. It's for the biggest game of the year. I know this is all we've been talking about across pretty much every show on the GSMC Sports Network, outside of a couple. Or outside of one, I guess. You know, the GSMC Basketball Podcast isn't, going to cover the Super Bowl. Although, the host of that, Nelson, was on the Andrew Tate show today. So they talked about the Super Bowl. So, yeah, everybody's talked about the Super Bowl at least once here at the GSMC Sports Network. But, yeah, we finally made it. We've been talking about this for so long. And we're going to preview the game to start off the show. Then for the second and third segments, I'm going to talk about how each team got to this point, kind of give an overview on their seasons, respectively. And then in the final part of the show, I'll just talk about why each team can/will win the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, let's get into previewing this game, even though we've been talking about this for 2 weeks now. But yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs, they got to this game by defeating the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens. The 49ers, they got here by defeating the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions in the championship game. These two teams faced off back in Super Bowl 54, Chiefs winning that game. They played each other last year. I think, what was the final score? It was like 44-23, I think the final score. So now they will be rematching in the Super Bowl, getting that rematch. Brock Purdy's now the quarterback. It's still Patrick Mahomes on the other side. We know this. Brock Purdy had a good season, 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, 4,280 yards passing. Patrick Mahomes, 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, 4,183 passing yards. To look at the league rankings comparing these two teams. So on offense, both teams are in the top 10 in passing yards per game. 49ers are 6th. Chiefs are 7th. In rushing, 49ers are 3rd in rushing yards per game, 140.5. That's 3rd. And the Chiefs are 19th, 104.9. Then in terms of points per game, the Niners were 3rd. The Chiefs were 15th. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Chiefs are 4th against the pass, giving up an average of 197.2 passing yards per game. Niners are 14th against the run. The 49ers were 3rd during the regular season. But these last two playoff games, and we've talked about this, concern me a little bit when it comes to stopping the run. And the Chiefs were 17th. And then points allowed, Chiefs defense was 2nd. 49ers defense was 3rd. So going into this game, we talked about it a lot. I've talked about like I just said, the 49ers run defense, the Chiefs run defense as well. I talked about that. Also, TJ and I touched upon it in yesterday's show when we had him on. So both teams are going to run the football in this game. And from what I'm getting the sense that Christian McCaffrey, I mean, obviously, he is going to be involved in the game plan, but they're going to lean on him a ton in this game because that's where you can attack this Kansas City defense, is their run defense. And, and I've been saying this, the 49ers cannot afford to get off to a slow start in this game. These last two playoff games, they were able to come back and win. But against the Kansas City Chiefs, if you fall behind, odds are you're probably not coming back because they don't blow leads often. And, of course, on the other side with the defense, they got to get after Mahomes. And they got to make sure that he's not able to scramble out and pick up yards because he can do that. He could scramble for 20 yards. Again, last year's Super Bowl, he did that. In the championship game this year, he scrambled for a big run. He could do that. So the Niners, they got to make sure that they got a spy on him. And, if they're bringing pressure and they're getting to him, you just got to make sure that, somebody's there in case he's able to scramble out of it to get him down so he doesn't pick up a big yard or a big gain. Listen, both running backs are going to be playing key roles in this game on both sides. Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs are going to lean on him, I think, in this game because the Niners defense, against Aaron Jones and then against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, the run defense for the 49ers has not been good recently. Now, again, both teams have had a couple weeks to prepare for this game, so we'll see how that translates to the game, but that's something that I'm a little worried about too, is the 49ers run defense. And, listen, if they don't get to Mahomes, he could pick them apart because he did that last year. And the other thing too is receivers got to hold on to the ball. Travis Kelce's been tearing it up in the postseason, looking like Travis Kelce, because I know people have been talking about, he's lost a step, all that. I mean, it's been a challenging year for him, but, when the Chiefs have had to get it right, when the money's on the table, they've stepped up, and they look like the Chiefs. And again, I mean, the strength of the team this year has been their defense. So I think, they're going to give Brock Purdy some problems. I think there could be a turnover in this game. I think he's going to throw an interception in this game. And you can't afford to do that against the Chiefs because they could capitalize on that. But, it's going to be... actually, what's interesting, though? So when the Bills went for that fake punt, Chiefs didn't get any points out of that. And then I think on the Lamar Jackson fumble, the Chiefs didn't cash in because they went for it on fourth down and they didn't get it. I think it was on that drive. But still, I think the Chiefs are going to give Brock Purdy some problems. But listen, Brock Purdy can move around too. Not as well as some of the other quarterbacks, including Mahomes, but he can move around when he has to. And the 49ers have a ton of playmakers on this offense that I just think it's going to be hard for the Chiefs defense to completely shut them down. I'm hoping this game is going to be a little bit of back and forth. The Chiefs are the underdog in this game, and a lot of people are taking the Chiefs with the points. It does worry me a little bit because if you go all in on that side, then you end up being disappointed. But I don't think listen, again, my heart is with the 49ers. I want the 49ers to win this, but I think it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think ultimately they are going to get it done. They've just been on a roll. They've been in that playoff mode since the playoffs started, and I think that's going to continue here. And I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to say the final score is, I'm going to say 28 to 24, I think the final score is going to be. I think the 49ers will put up points here. But because I think it's going to be hard to, shut them down. I mean, they got so many playmakers. But I just think the Chiefs, with their experience, and again, like I said, they've been in that playoff mode. I think they're gonna come away with this win. I'm gonna stick with it. Take them with the points, and they're gonna repeat as champions. At least with me saying, I'm taking the Chiefs. But if that ends up happening, they'll repeat as champions. I mean, they'll officially be a dynasty, and we'll see. But like I said, hoping for the 49ers to win, and again, at the end of the day, just hoping it's a good game. So, but I think the Chiefs win it 27-24. I think both. I think there will be turnovers in this game, but I think Brock Purdy will make plays. I don't think it's going to be. Again, I said I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him, but it's just you're going up against a good defense, so they're going to have to, like I said, rely on Christian McCaffrey, to balance the attack, balance the run and the pass. 49ers defense is going to have to step up, get stops. I mean, they got a ton of playmakers on that side of the ball. Get after Mahomes, Chase Young. Again, Steve Wilkes called out the defense, was not happy with the effort. And, Bosa, Armstead, get after him. I mean, we'll see how, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, they match up against Travis Kelce, because I figure they're going to be, lining up against him. And we'll see, like, with the Chiefs, with their wide receivers, who's going to be the wide receiver that steps up in this Super Bowl? Because actually, the other thing, too, is Rashee Rice, he was a full participant in practice, but then he got downgraded to limited. So got to keep an eye on that. Because if there's a chance he doesn't play in this game, that would be a huge loss for them. Because he's really, in the second half, he's become, a key piece for them. So that's something to keep an eye on. So, and who knows with Kadarius Toney if he's going to play. But, I mean, listen, it should be a good game. Looking forward to it. And, you could catch it on CBS, Paramount Plus, or Nickelodeon if you want to watch the Nickelodeon broadcast. Because they are playing Sweet Victory before the Super Bowl on Nickelodeon. And for a lot of people that are SpongeBob fans, we're not happy, including myself, with, the Super Bowl with the Rams and the Patriots, where that they only played like a part of it, and then they just, they kind of fooled us with that. So I think we're getting the real deal this time. But you got to tune in. It's going to be before the game, so make sure to tune into Nickelodeon if you want to see the real thing. So there's a few ways of watching this game. So I mean, I can't believe we made it to this point. But again, that just goes to show you that the season just flies by. And like I said in the baseball podcast earlier, football will now be passing the baton off to baseball after this game. Because I know pretty much every year, at least for the last couple of seasons or last couple of years, baseball accounts just start posting stuff the minute the Super Bowl's over. But hey, baseball starts this month, so. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win? Again, I think the Chiefs are going to win. I don't feel great about it just because of everybody seems to be riding the Chiefs, but we'll see. I mean, look, the 49ers, they were looked at as the best team in the NFL at one point, and then the Ravens kind of took over. Then the Chiefs beat them. So we'll see. What happens now? These two teams going at it. It should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball on both teams. And at the end of the day, I mean, I keep saying it, like I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, just want it to be a good game. That's all. So when we come back, I mean, we'll continue our discussion because this is a Super Bowl themed show. So when we come back from our first break of the show, I will give my overview on the Chiefs' 2023 season. We'll go through, what happened this year, how they got to this point. We're going to do that for both teams, starting off with the Chiefs. and that's what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, I will give you my overview of the Kansas City Chiefs 2023 season, how they got to this point. So let's get into it. So obviously, started off the season, hanging the banner for their Super Bowl championship from last year, playing the Detroit Lions to kick off the season. And it didn't go so well. They ended up losing that game 21-20. And you could point to a lot of drops in this game at crucial points. Kadarius Toney, had a rough first game of the year. Has had rough games throughout the season. And, he was responsible for, Mahomes throws him a pass, gets tipped up in the air. Intercepted by Brian Branch of the Lions. He takes that back for a pick six. Then later in the game, Chiefs are trying to get in the field goal range, and they probably would have if Kadarius Toney caught that pass towards the end of the game, which they would have basically been in field goal range. Butker probably wouldn't have kicked the game-winning field goal, and they would have started off the season 1-0. But they ended up losing that game by 1. There was no Travis Kelce in the game. He got ruled out with an injury, but he did come back in week 2. The Chiefs were able to bounce back. They won a low-scoring game with Jacksonville. They won 17-9 in that contest. Kelce scored a touchdown, and that was the Ian Eagle calling the touchdown, saying, "Oh, he finds that blank space in the defense," because that's when all the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift stuff began. And then, of course, she goes to her first Chiefs game on week 3, and that was when the complaining started. And the Chiefs were all over the Bears in that game. 41-10 the final score was. I mean, it wasn't even a game. I remember I took the Bears with the points in that game. The Bears just could not get anything going. And it looked like, all right, Chiefs are back to their winning ways. And that continued, because they went on to win their next, 6, their next 6 games. So yeah, then the following week, Sunday night, week 4, against the Jets, a game that I was in attendance for because I wanted to see Patrick Mahomes take on Aaron Rodgers. And I ended up seeing Patrick Mahomes play probably one of his worst games as a pro. And I saw Zach Wilson play one of his best games as a pro. But the Chiefs still ended up winning 23-20. Mahomes threw a couple of picks in the game. Should have had 3, but there was a flag that took that away. The Chiefs had the lead in the game. They were up 17-0. And then the Jets, they came back, made it a game, but the Chiefs ultimately won the game by 3. Zach Wilson had a chance to put together a game-winning drive, but then he fumbled, and then the Chiefs, they were able to pick up first downs and end the game, and they won that. So then the following week, they played the Vikings, won 27-20 in that contest. And I know towards the end of the game there were some flags that, there should have been penalties towards the end that would have set the Vikings up to maybe tie the game, but that ended up not happening. So they won that game in Week 5. They won a low-scoring game in Week 6 against the Broncos. They won 19-8. Against the Chargers in the following week, winning 31-17. But then this is where things kind of started to change for the Chiefs. So Week 8 against the Broncos, they ended up losing 24-9, and Mahomes had the flu. It was not a good game for them. Receivers were dropping passes. It's just a very sloppy game by the Chiefs in this game. Yeah, so this kind of like changed the season a little bit for them. Because, offense still was not looking great, but like they were getting the job done. This is kind of where the season started to change. And, so they lose that game. Then they go to Germany. They beat the Dolphins 21-14, but they didn't score anything in the second half. Then they went on their bye. They come back. The rematch of the Super Bowl with the Eagles. The Eagles win that game 21-17, and that was, again, a crucial drop in the game. Mahomes throws it up to Valdez-Scantling. He can't hold it on. He can't hold on to it. He can't catch it. Chiefs end up losing that game. Then they get back. Then they get back on the right track, defeating the Raiders 31-17. They were actually losing that game at one point, but they were able to come back, win it by a couple of scores. Then Mahomes' first trip to Lambeau Field against the Packers, they lose that game 27-19. Again, Valdez-Scantling. It looked like could have been a pass interference call. But that ended up not happening. They ended up not calling a flag. And what's interesting is because the following week was the Bills game. But what's interesting is Mahomes said that he doesn't want, he doesn't want flags being the reason that they win. It's something along the lines of that. He said he doesn't want flags impacting the game. He wants he wasn't upset about the pass interference call. The following week though, it was a complete 180 because the Bills needed this game badly. They ended up winning it. But the Chiefs, you thought were going to win it because towards the end of the game, Mahomes throws that pass to Kelsey. He laterals it to Kadarius Toney. Toney runs it in for a touchdown. And you think, wow, the Chiefs just pulled that off. They're going to get the win and crush the Bills' hopes and dreams of making the playoffs. Now, later on in the season, they end up crushing the Bills' hopes and dreams. But not at this moment. But from what Mahomes said in that press conference after the Packers game to what ends up happening in this game where he just was so... I've never seen Mahomes more upset than how he was at that. And it was the right call. That was the right call. But I do like to think it just has a lot to do with the fact that the kind of year his receivers are having and just the offense just has not been able to get it going, get that consistency. That I think that just... It was anger building up and frustration building up inside of him, and he just let it all out. But it was the right call. The officials did make the right call. Toney was lined up off sides. But yeah, so then after that, we move on to the Patriots game. They won by 10. Again, there was another interception. Toney gets the ball thrown to him. It gets hit up in the air. It gets picked off. Again, Mahomes visibly upset on the sidelines about it. But yeah, this was the game here with the Raiders where I just thought, yeah, this team does not look like a team that's going to be going anywhere. They'll make the playoffs, but they're probably not going to go to the Super Bowl, make it back to the Super Bowl. It's the Raiders game. Because I'm pretty sure that the Raiders, they didn't complete a pass after the first quarter, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Back-to-back defensive touchdowns by the Raiders on back-to-back drives. You had, the botched exchange between Isaiah Pacheco and Patrick Mahomes. That led to a touchdown. Then after that, you got the pick six that was thrown. Yeah, the Chiefs just looked really sloppy in that game. And it just seemed like, yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like, yeah, I guess maybe it's just not their year. But then after that, they beat the Bengals, and they were trailing in that game. They were losing, what was it? It was 17-13 at the half. But I think what was the score at one point? It was 17-7 at one point. But yeah, the Chiefs came back. I mean, Harrison Butker kicked a bunch of field goals. How many field goals did he kick in that game? He kicked. So yeah, he went 6 of 6 from with field goals, and it's again that hurts me because I had him in fantasy, and the week before against the Raiders, he misses that kick, and I lose by 1 point in my semifinals. If he had that week that he had against the Bengals against the Raiders, I would have won my championship. So Harrison Butker upset me towards the end of the year. And then, obviously, they rested their starters. Again, enough of me complaining. Then, against the Chargers, rested their starters. Chris Jones, got his sack. He played in the game. And the Chiefs actually won the game 13-12. So, yeah, they were locked into the third seed. And, they were going to be playing some road playoff games. And, they got off to a good start, beat the Dolphins 26-7. I mean, the Dolphins really didn't have a chance in this game. Their only big play was the touchdown to Tyreek Hill. But other than that, the Chiefs had that game all the way in that cold weather. And then they go on the road. They play the Bills, Mahomes' first road playoff game. And they played well, get the win 27-24. The Bills had their opportunities, but ultimately the Chiefs were able to get the win. And then obviously you have the championship game against the Ravens. They won that game 17-10, even though they got shut out in the second half. So now they are back in the Super Bowl once again. And again, it's in a year where you kind of didn't expect it because of just everything that went on during the regular season. The offense was inconsistent. Travis Kelce looking like he lost a step. Mahomes, 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. That's not a bad year, but definitely not the Patrick Mahomes type season that we're accustomed to seeing. But what's really, been a factor for them is their defense. Their defense has been one of the best defenses in the league. Their secondary is one of the best, if not the best. You got Chris Jones on the defensive line. This team looks like a very different team than we saw in the regular season. And like I said, they're in that mode right now, and it is going to be tough to stop them if you're the 49ers. Especially because they're going up against the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. And, we'll see what game plan they have for the Chiefs. And we'll see, if they look like the 49ers team that we saw early on in the regular season that was just, dominating against teams, But, yeah, in a season where the offense is not the offensive juggernaut that we're accustomed to seeing, and, there was inconsistencies, and, it didn't matter. The Chiefs still got back to this point, and a credit to them, and like we talked about yesterday, they're looked at as the new villain in the NFL. Fans are tired of seeing this team making it to this point, but for me, I think it's unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish. And, they're looking to get that next Super Bowl championship. Mahomes is looking for that third ring. And we'll see if that ends up happening on Sunday. But yeah, that's the Chiefs' season. It is definitely was an interesting season for them because this looked like the year where it just was not going to happen. But it did. They still found a way to make it back here, and they're going to try to get it done once again. So before we go into our second break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then do an overview of now the San Francisco 49ers 2023 season. I'll give you my thoughts on their journey back to the Super. I know I did that the other day, but I talked about prior seasons and QB changes and things like that. So we'll talk about their season, what happened, and that'll be the third part of the show. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to get into the 49ers. We'll talk about their 2023 season, how they got to this point. And yeah, so let's start off with going all the way back to week 1 once again. I was in Massachusetts for my cousin's wedding, so I really, I actually did watch a little bit of this game because we actually did go axe throwing during the game, so they had it on where we were. So yeah, the 49ers, they really dominated this game against the Steelers. 30-7 was the final score. I remember I took the Steelers in the game, but yeah, I mean, how silly I look after that. Brock Purdy had a good game, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Christian McCaffrey, 152 rushing yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 2 touchdowns in this game, 129 yards receiving. Just an all-around solid performance by the 49ers in week 1. And obviously this was the first game back for Brock Purdy because, getting elbow surgery after what happened in the NFC Championship game. 49ers didn't skip a beat to start the year. Then they ended up taking on the Rams the following week, winning 30-23 in that game. Back-to-back games for the Rams. They kept it close with the Niners, and after their week 1 win in Seattle, you thought, okay, maybe the Rams might not be so bad this year. But yeah, I mean, the Niners are still the better team. McCaffrey, another great performance for him. I mean, a great year for him as well. I know I'm not going to touch upon it today, but just because of the Super Bowl, but the NFL honors were last night, so I'll touch upon about all the awards and things like that. I'll maybe do some shorts today on them because Christian McCaffrey won Offensive Player of the Year last night, although a lot of people will say that he should have won MVP, but he did at least win Offensive Player of the Year, so congratulations to him on a great season. But yeah, I'll definitely go over all the NFL honors stuff next week, just because today, with it being the Friday before the Super Bowl, I just wanted to do things relating to the game and the teams. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year. So yeah, they beat the Rams. They also, on the Thursday night in Week 3 against the Giants, they won that game 30-12. I mean, the Giants kept it close. The Giants actually kept it close at one point. I think the score, what was it? Yeah, I mean, it was 17-12 in the third quarter. Matt Breida scored a rushing touchdown. But, yeah, I mean, the 49ers were the better team. They ended up winning 30-12. Played the Cardinals, won that game 35-16. McCaffrey, another monster game there. I think, what did he have? Oh, he had 4 touchdowns in that game. Yeah, so they won that game. And then they played the Dallas Cowboys in Week 5. And, this was a big game for the Cowboys. They wanted to avenge their playoff loss from the previous year, losing that game 19-12 in the divisional round. And, yeah, that was a low-scoring game. This game was not. 49ers won that game 42-10. Or this game 42-10. Was not much of a game. And it just looked like at that point, 49ers are just better than everybody. And are they going to end up going undefeated? Like, who's going to end up beating them? And the following week, the Cleveland Browns ended up beating them 19-17. couple missed field goals by Jake Moody. Deebo Samuel got hurt in the game. Trent Williams got hurt. And this is where things started to change a little bit for the Niners, because then they proceeded to lose their next 2 games. They lost to Kirk Cousins the following week, who passed for 378 yards and two touchdowns. Jordan Addison had a good game. What was his... so he had 7 receptions for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brock Purdy had a couple of turnovers in the game. The Niners were trying to, put together a game-winning drive, and Purdy threw a pick at the end, so they lost that game. And the 49ers showed some vulnerability there, and also in the next game against the Bengals, because Joe Burrow had 3 touchdowns, 283 yards passing. The Bengals ran the ball for 134 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase had 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Brock Purdy, again, 2 interceptions. And, this game, was close, but Bengals kind of pulled away. Actually, it was a one-score game for a bit. But then in the fourth quarter, the Bengals went up by 2 scores. Then the 49ers made it a one-score game, and then Joe Mixon scored a rushing touchdown that made it 31-17. That was the final score of that game. So, yeah. And then there was their bye week. And their bye week came at the right time because, again, 3-game losing streak. What's going on? All this stuff about Purdy. And, because I remember I did a segment where I think Purdy was in concussion protocol, and it looked like Sam Darnold was going to start. And I think this was against the Bengals. And I was saying, listen, if Sam Darnold comes out and plays really well, what happens with Purdy? But that ended up never happening because Purdy ended up playing, and, we know the rest of the story. They come back from their bye week, and they proceed to win their next 6 games. So, all over the Jaguars, 34-3 in that game. Christian McCaffrey did not score a touchdown in the game. They were trying their hardest to get him to score to keep the streak going, but unfortunately it ended. All over Jacksonville, like I said. They defeated the Bucs 27-14. They defeated the Seahawks on Thanksgiving 31-13. Then there was the NFC Championship game rematch against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we've all talked about it. What would have happened if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt? And I don't know. I don't know if 42-19 would have happened, but definitely would have been a close game. But this is kind of where the Eagles' season changed, because then they fell apart. And, Deebo Samuel had, 3 touchdowns in this game. Brock Purdy, 314 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah, Deebo Samuel had 3 touchdowns. McCaffrey, of course, had a touchdown in the game. 49ers at that point, they got their groove back. Then they played the Seahawks again, won that, 28-16, won 45-29 against the Cardinals. And then on Christmas, they played the Baltimore Ravens, and this was, it's like, hey, is this a Super Bowl preview that we're getting here? And obviously that's not the case, but the Ravens looked like the much better team. Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions in the game. Ravens won that 33-19, and it looked like, that game might have cemented Lamar Jackson's MVP, which he ended up winning last night. Congratulations to him. But yeah, because Brock Purdy was an MVP candidate, and then this kind of just squashed that, with the 4 interceptions. So yeah, and then the following week they got their get-right game against the Commanders, winning 27-10, and then they rested a lot of their starters last week of the regular season against the Rams, and the Rams won that game 21-10 or 21-20 with Carson Wentz starting. So then in the playoffs, they defeated the Packers 24-21 in the comeback win, and then defeated the Lions 34-31 in the comeback win, and where they were down 17 at one point. So here we are. Here are the Niners back in the same spot they were in back a couple years ago, or back in 2019, 2020, taking on the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. Now it's Super Bowl 58. Different quarterback this time. Last time it was Jimmy Garoppolo. Now it's Brock Purdy. Yeah, again, like I talked about in the first segment, like I've been talking about, the Niners cannot afford to get off to a slow start in this game. They got to look like the 49ers that started out the regular season. I mean, get the ball, go right down the field, score a touchdown. Set the tone for this game, and, have the Chiefs play from behind. Even though, I don't think that really matters. You go back to past, playoff games. You go back to the 24-0, deficit against the Texans. They came back from that. But, again, with 2 weeks between, the NFC Championship game and now, we'll see how the 49ers come out. Curious to see, what happens. But, this is, on paper, they are the better team than the Chiefs. The difference is, of course, is that quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. But you know what? Brock Purdy, he had a good season, and I think that what he's been able to do, he is the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had in this system with the 49ers. And he's able to do things that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't able to do. He's more mobile, and at least knock on wood, he's at least durable. The only reason why he got hurt was because he got hit in the arm as he's throwing a pass in the championship game last year. And you got Christian McCaffrey, playmakers across the board, offensive line is solid. You got the best left tackle in the NFL in Trent Williams. And then on the other side with their defense, with their front seven, their secondary is a little bit of a problem. And again, the run defense has been an issue these last two playoff games. But listen, this team on paper, they are the better team than the Chiefs, except again, it's a quarterback position that, And of course, you got Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. They have their experiences in the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has experience as well. It's just he's been on the losing end every time he's been in the Super Bowl. Whether it was with the Falcons or, the Niners. So the Niners are trying to look to get over that hump and finally get that Super Bowl that they deserve. I think this group of players, they deserve it. They've been falling short so many times. They were the best team in the NFC pretty much all year. It changed a little bit at times, but, with the Eagles, because the Eagles were 10-1, it looked like it was them. But once the 49ers played the Eagles and they won 42-19, the Niners got back to saying, hey, we're the best team. And, yeah, so, they got to get off to a fast start. Can't afford to be playing from behind. Listen, they've been fortunate that they've been able to win these last two games, but, again, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off against the Chiefs. So, both teams, how you could kind of compare these two teams in the sense that, yeah, they've had their rough stretches. The Niners with their 3-game losing streak, the Chiefs, losing to the Raiders on Christmas, and, the Broncos loss. They've had it hasn't been a clean ride the whole way. There's been some bumps in the road. So, now we'll see when these two teams match up on Sunday, how that goes. And, looking forward to it. But, yeah, I'm hoping the 49ers win it. I would like to see, again, these players win it. And, at least, and I hope that Brock Purdy, he puts together a game-winning drive, and he's responsible for their win. I hope Brock Purdy has a great game because, you see him talking to the media, how he conducts himself. Guy does get a lot of criticism for no reason. I think the story is incredible. Being the last pick in the draft, and now you're back. You get to back-to-back NFC Championship games. Now you're in the Super Bowl. It's unbelievable. And again, for me, I don't look at him as a top-tier quarterback. I said that, but I think he's solid. I think he's solid for the system that he's in. He's got to be able to make the throws. he does that. He's mobile. He can move around when he has to. I think there's more to him than just, people saying he's a game manager. But at the same time, you don't want to say he's, in the class with, like, Josh Allen and, Joe Burrow, those guys. I don't think he's in that class, but he's he's in a class of his own, but, like, lower on the tier list when it comes to ranking quarterbacks. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about and my camera just froze. All right, so I'll fix that. So when we come back from our final break of the show, I'll talk about reasons why both teams will win the Super Bowl. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. All right, but yeah, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. I was able to fix my camera. So I gave you a little bit of a preview of when there'll be 3 people on the show at the same time when I clicked on the wrong scene on OBS here. But yeah, so to finish off what I was saying, so yeah, Brock Purdy I would say is kind of like in like that. I mean, I guess he could probably be in the same tier as some other quarterbacks, but again, really it's just he's kind of in the middle when you're talking about game manager and elite quarterback. He's in the middle. He's not. I don't think he's a game manager, but I don't think he's top tier. But I've said that a bunch of times. So yeah, let's get into now the reasons why both teams can win Super Bowl 58. This will be the final topic. I mean, listen, there's not really I don't know how to word it. There's not really a lot of there's not unique reasons why that I'm going to come up with as to why both teams can win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's some of them are kind of obvious, but yeah. So I mean, with the Chiefs, why they can / will win the Super Bowl, I mean, is off their quarterback. Patrick Mahomes has played in so many big games in such a short period of time, and he's used to these moments. I mean, he's been playing from behind. He's played in Super Bowls. He knows how it feels to lose a Super Bowl too. So just with all that experience, I mean, he is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's in a class of his own, and then it's everybody else. And it doesn't matter. I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson had good seasons, and Mahomes might have not had his best year, but Patrick Mahomes still ended up, knocking out both of those guys in the playoffs to get back to this point. And, he's going to be the reason. He is one of the reasons why the Chiefs will or can win the Super Bowl, which is pretty obvious. Also, another thing, actually, I really haven't talked about him that much, is Isaiah Pacheco. I did mention the running game, but Chiefs are going to have to rely on that running game at times too. I mean, again, you see how the 49ers defense has been kind of susceptible to the run. Chiefs got to rely on Isaiah Pacheco in this game. And he's had a good postseason. He's scored a touchdown in every postseason game so far this year. And I expect that to happen again in the Super Bowl. He scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl last year too. So you know what, Pacheco's going to play a role in this game, you know, and I think he'll be solid in this spot. And then of course you got the defensive side of the ball. Again, the Chiefs have one of the best secondaries in the NFL, you know, led by L'Jarius Sneed. You know, I think, you know, they're going to give Brock Purdy some pride. But, you know, it's going to be fascinating to see the playmakers match up with the Niners match up with the secondary of the Chiefs. You know, and obviously the Chiefs with their front seven, too, led by Chris Jones, you know, they're going to be trying to get after Purdy, and I think they'll give Purdy some problems. You know, and Steve Spagnuolo, he's been there so many times, and he's going to come up with a game plan to try to, you know, slow down the Niners' offense here with Brock Purdy. You know, and the other thing, too, is with the Chiefs, just got to make sure the receivers hold on to the ball. You know, Valdez-Scantling, you know, dropped some big passes earlier in the season, but he's caught some big ones. I mean, against the Ravens, the game-sealing catch at the end on that third down play. Made some big catches in the Buffalo Bills game as well in the divisional round. Again, we'll see if Kadarius Toney ends up playing in this game. I saw something that said that he could return punts in the Super Bowl if he does play. And you got to remember, had one of the big plays in the Super Bowl last year that set up one of their touchdowns. So, you know, we'll see if he ends up playing. But, you know, and again, also look at this, check on the status of Rashee Rice because, you know, he was downgraded from a full participant in practice to now limited. So, you know, and he's, you know, that's someone that Patrick Mahomes has developed a nice connection with, somebody that's really been contributing in the second half of the season and in the postseason. So, something to keep an eye on. You know, and obviously, of course, you got Travis Kelce, who's been on a tear in the postseason. Looks like the Travis Kelce that we're accustomed to seeing, and I expect him to make big plays in this game as well. So, I mean, again, a lot of these reasons are not crazy, but, you know, again, just another angle as to why, or another angle to, you know, talk about the Super Bowl with. But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all of the angles with the Chiefs. You know, they got the experience, you know, they got the quarterback, the running game, the defense. Yeah, it's, you know, it's really not, you know, anything crazy. Which, yeah, so now we move on to the 49ers. And, you know, with them, it's you know, similar things. You know, you got Brock Purdy, you know, is going to have to make plays. You know, again, was an MVP candidate for most of the year. And, you know, listen, was a part of both comebacks against the Packers and the Lions in the postseason. Big moments. And, you know, listen, the 49ers could have easily folded when they were losing to the Packers. You know, I mean, down 17 to the Lions, they could have easily folded there. But you know what? They were able to come back, although they capitalized on some of the Lions' mistakes. You know, they were able to come back and win those games. And listen, Brock Purdy's going to have to make plays in this game. Again, similar to the Chiefs, rely on your running game with Christian McCaffrey. He was an MVP candidate all year. Maybe should have won the MVP. That's somebody you're going to have to rely on in this game. Get the ball to your playmakers. The 49ers, they have a ton of playmakers. We talk about the Chiefs' defense, and again, the fascinating matchup between them and the 49ers playmakers. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, they got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings makes plays as well. Their number 3 wide receiver. You know, get the ball to your playmakers. Deebo Samuel, you could have him come out of the backfield too. You know, there's going to be a lot of motion, you know, at the line of scrimmage. You know, they love to do that pre-snap motion. So, you know, they're going to be throwing a lot at the Chiefs defense. And we'll see how the Chiefs defense reacts to it. You what their game plan is. But, I mean, the 49ers just have a ton of weapons, so they're going to make impacts. They're going to make plays in this game. Again, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, another guy that's been a lock to, score touchdowns. Don't be surprised if he scores one here. And then the 49ers defense. Listen, there have been games this year, both stopping the pass, stopping the run, where it's been a problem. I mean, again, talked about it when I was going over their regular season. I mean, Kirk Cousins, 378 yards passing against them. Joe Burrow had a good game against them. The secondary is a problem. And the running game, stopping the run recently, has been a problem in these last two playoff games. So they got to get back to being the 49ers defense that can stop the run, get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, because, again, in the NFC Championship game, Kevin Burkhardt was talking about how getting pressure has been a problem for the 49ers recently. They got to get pressure in this game. And they have the defense to do it. Their front seven is arguably the best in the NFL. With Bosa, Armstead, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. I mean, they got to get pressure on Mahomes. This is not a loaded Chiefs offense, but you still got Patrick Mahomes, you still got Travis Kelce. So they got to take Travis Kelce out of the game, make somebody else beat you. Because there were times in the playoff games against the Ravens and the Bills where it's like, how are you leaving Kelce wide open? I mean, the first touchdown against the Bills, nobody in sight on the Bills. And then, making crucial plays in the championship game. He's wide open. They got to try to contain him. And it's going to be hard to because it's Travis Kelce. But, they got to somehow find a way to take him out of the game. But listen, I mean, it's all similar stuff with both sides. I mean, the 49ers defense is really both units are solid. Both running games are solid. It's just quarterbacks. It's different. Again, Brock Purdy statistically had a better season than Patrick Mahomes, but now we're in the postseason. So, and it's kind of been the opposite. Patrick Mahomes has looked better in the postseason than Brock Purdy. So, and again, we'll see if Kyle Shanahan can get over that hump. His third time's a charm here. Losing the Super Bowl as the coordinator with the Falcons, losing it against the Chiefs as the head coach. 4 years later, let's see if they can get it done. Like I said, my heart is with the 49ers. My head says the Kansas City Chiefs. But we'll see. We have made it. Final game of the NFL season is upon us. We've made it to this point, and we will have a champion by the end of Sunday. And, and I thank you guys all year for tuning in for the shows. Obviously there'll be things to talk about in the offseason, free agency, the draft, schedule comes out. And then we'll be right back here again because, again, that's just how fast time goes. But I thank you guys for tuning in for this great season. And, by the end of Sunday, like I said, we'll have a champion. We'll recap the game. And then we'll go from there. But I hope everybody enjoys this weekend, enjoys the game. Enjoy it with whoever you're watching with, whether it's family, friends, whatever you decide to do. Eat a lot of good food, because I know that's the other thing I'm excited for as well. It's a good day. The Super Bowl is, always a good time. And again, just want a good game. That's what I want. And, whatever happens, I'm not going to be disappointed. I know a lot of people are disappointed with the matchup for many different reasons, but let's just hope for a good game at the end of the day. And like I said, I'll cover all the NFL honors stuff next week. I just figured because today was, the last Friday before the Super Bowl, I wanted to, just do all Super Bowl related things. So next week we'll talk about who won, each award. But and again, I thank you guys for tuning in for if you did for both shows today. I obviously had the baseball show earlier, football show. We're wrapping up here, but again, let me know what your thoughts are on this game. Who do you think is going to win in the comments? Again, I'll be coming out with shorts throughout the day as well. I'll have the both shows reposted, broken down into the 4 segments. That'll be done today as well. So look out for that in case you missed anything. Also, check out Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. My shows are on there as well. And, also make sure to tune into all the rest of the GSMC Sports Network slate. Still got the basketball podcast and the sports podcast later today as well. So make sure to tune into those. But yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday. We'll recap this game. We'll have a Super Bowl champion. So until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.